So there's a lot of men out there telling women they're too independent. And you may have heard that line before. And for a lot of women, it can be extremely frustrating or annoying or immediately cause you to view this man as weak, not strong enough to handle you, insecure, and so on and so forth. And let's be real, sometimes that is the case. But there's a lot more to this issue that I think it's important that we discuss. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've alluded to a woman being too independent. I never used those words exactly, you're too independent. I've used a different word, which I'll reveal later in the video. But we have to understand that the issue of independence is bigger than just dating, is bigger than just that man, and we got to look at it from the right angle so that we can get the best results, okay? Now, let's get to it. First, let me explain why your independence is a good thing. So I don't want you to think this is a whole bash your independence video, all right? Your independence is a good thing because the reality is that your ability to take care of yourself is honorable. And I think it's highly respected. To be honest with you, I know it may not always seem like that, but a lot of men do respect and value a woman who is capable of being independent. Now, you're gonna notice I keep using the word capable, all right? Or I may say has the skill to be independent, rather than defining you as an independent woman. And again, that's another thing I'll explain a little bit later, why you need to understand the difference. But getting back to the point, plenty of men respect it because when you are an independent woman, you're coming into situations and relationships not being an immediate burden. And that's not even being an immediate burden, not being a burden at all, because you're able to stand on your own 2 feet. You don't have to be babied, you don't have to be carried on this man's back to get to the next level. And listen, not to say that there are men who aren't okay with the carrying or the coddling or whatever you want to call it, right? But yes, plenty of people respect and value the fact that a woman can do for herself. It's also good because the unfortunate reality is that in life, we can't always depend on others. And a lot of times we're let down and we're put in a position where if we don't learn to fend for ourselves, we're gonna fall into a deeper pit of struggle, of despair, of misery. And so we have to learn how to pull ourselves out of there. Not to mention that again, the way it translates into a relationship is that when you have learned how to get through the struggles on your own, you become equipped in a way that now you don't put the full burden on your partner, all right? And so look at it the same way as you dating a man. If that man has not developed a level of independence where now he is always seeking you out to comfort him, to coddle him, not saying that you should not be pouring into him in that way, but when it's always necessary in order for him to get it together, it starts to overwhelm you. It starts to wear you down. So understandably so, I think people in general can appreciate when that individual, again, yes, we may need to step up as partners here and there, but they're able to also know how to do right by themselves in those moments, all right? And so let me also say this in regards to why your independence is a good thing. I do believe that your ability to be independent allows you to build confidence and it allows you to not get attached or lessen the chances of developing certain unhealthy attachments, all right? So essentially, if you're a woman who has not learned how to take care of herself at all, then what happens is when a man comes around who can provide for you in ways that you cannot, well, not in ways you can't provide for yourself, but can provide for you in a way that stabilizes your life, pulls you out of wherever you're at, it's easy to get swayed by that he can do that and overlook all his other red flags. It's easy to get focused on his money and forget the fact that maybe he treats you poorly, that he doesn't give you the full respect, or maybe that he's being extremely controlling with his ability to provide for you in this way. Not that every man who provides is looking to control. I think that's a huge misunderstanding or a negative perception that's being put out there, and it's simply not always the case. I want to lean towards it's not the case most of the times, but maybe I'm a little biased. But getting back to the point, I think that, again, when you have not developed a certain level of independence, you can become blinded and allow yourself to latch on to men who are able to pour into you in certain ways, and it just seems too advantageous to pass up. So your independence does give you a level of protection, all right? But now, though I acknowledge the good side of independence, of a woman being capable of being independent, we also must understand the source of your independence. And the reason why this is important, all right? And don't worry, we're gonna get into the specifics of him calling you too independent, but I need to build this foundation first. For a lot of women, if you were to sit down or take a poll right now and you asked women, why are you independent? For a lot of women, the answer will be because I had no choice. All right, I was pushed into this position. This isn't something that I wanted to have to hold on to. Not that women don't have a desire to be able to do for themselves, but to the extreme that some have had to carry, the level of burden some have had to carry and do it all themselves, that has been a result of, I have no choice. And it goes back to, as I said earlier, people letting you down. People not being there for you, not maybe being able to count on family, friends, or even the men that you've dated before. And because of this, you develop this perception of, well, let me just do it myself rather than set myself up for the disappointment of hoping someone else does this for me and then they fall short, all right? Also, there can be the source of growing up being told, never depend on a man. Never depend on a man. You got to have your own money, have your own this, have your own that. And so some women, a lot of women, have been conditioned to the mentality of an independent woman on the basis of the fear of being vulnerable to a man in these different ways, okay? And though on the surface, that may seem like, well, why the hell not? Like, why would we want any woman to have to be vulnerable in the way that she can be taken advantage of? I understand. However, when this is not handled properly or this is not processed properly, it can turn into something very negative and very ugly, to be honest with you. I hate to use that word, but I'm going to use that word. And so there is the, again, being forced into it because nobody's there for you. There is the being told, never rely on a man, all right? There's also seeing your own mother have to be independent and do it on her own. And that also plays into not trusting men, not being able to rely on men, feeling like, again, I have to protect me. And again, it seems cool on the surface, but it can easily turn into very negative things if it goes unchecked, all right? So with that said, I gave you some of the good reasons for your independence. And I helped you understand or consider some of the sources of your independence. And now let me also say this. Let me add one more source. Because there is a positive source. I kind of named some ones that can go negative. But the positive one is you are an ambitious woman. And you want to be able to do for yourself. You want to achieve, you want to do things, you want to establish things. And there's nothing wrong with that desire. Again, if you have that hustler mentality, if you have that go-getter energy, that's cool. Now, let me make it clear. Not everybody has that. Both men and women. There are some men and women who are go-getters. There are some men and women, they don't really have that drive. It's more so, hey, I'm just trying to live a good life, have what I need, and I'm cool at a certain level. I don't have to really go beyond that, where others want to strive for more. And so if your source of independence is that innate desire to achieve, to do, to stand on your own out of what makes you feel good, again, nothing wrong with that. But again, I guess I did say the other ones are going to turn to something negative. This one can too. This one can turn to something negative if gone unchecked. So now let's talk about why some men don't like an independent woman, okay? And this is going to kind of highlight how these things can turn negative. So the reality is that, well, first, let's get it out the way. Some men are genuinely insecure. Some men genuinely cannot handle I don't want to even use the word a strong woman. For some reason, I want to use the word, they cannot handle an impactful woman, all right? And the reason why I'm using the word impactful and not strong, I feel like the word strong gets thrown around too loosely and allows people to hide behind the label of strong when there's deeper things going on there. And I don't think the strength of a woman is what intimidates or makes these men insecure or pulls out their insecurities. I honestly think it's the ability for that woman to impact him, how he feels around her, because her energy is strong. Her achievements are strong. She's doing something with herself. And again, maybe I'm wrong using the word impactful, but that's the word that's resonating with me more than strong, okay? So an impactful woman, maybe even a powerful woman, again, in the way that your light shines. And he feels like my light ain't shining that bright to handle this, all right? And so because of that, yes, he will view your independence as a threat to him. He will view it as a challenge to his manhood, all right? And he will also be concerned, maybe not because of you personally, but because of past experiences, that you will flex your independent muscles, or you will flex the fact that you are a higher achiever than he is in times that he is vulnerable, or in times that will emasculate him. And because he's been through that before, the minute he sees or perceives you as independent, he's thinking, oh, hell no, I'm out. I'm not dealing with this again. I already went through this before, all right? But I also think that the other reason why, and that's for the men who are just insecure. But let's talk about some of the men who aren't insecure, who actually genuinely, maybe they're a go-getter themselves, they've achieved much, they have a good foundation, because some of these men also will throw out you're too independent label and use it as a reason why, not use it, but that will be a reason why they don't want to move forward with you. And one of the reasons is because consider the fact that when we're trying to have a relationship with someone and we're genuinely into them, we want to express love to that individual, all right? And when someone is too independent, all right, and that's the key word there, because there's a level here, too independent, all right, where everything is, I got it, I'll take care of it. This chokes out his ability to give you love and provide value into your life. Now, some of you may say, well, why the hell is that a problem? He should be happy that I don't need him like that. He should be happy that I'm not using him. But it's not an issue of using or not needing. It's an issue of you're not letting me love you, all right? And so an example is, consider if you had a kid, or maybe some of you already have a child. And while this child is growing up, you want the child to be able to grow, to be able to do for themselves, right? But when they're not doing for themselves, you love pouring into them, you love doing for them all that. Now, once they get to an age where they can become very independent, all right? If they simply become independent to the point that every attempt for you to show them love is met with, no, I'm good, I'm okay, mom, I'm fine, I can do it myself. It's like there's a part of you that's proud that they can handle it for themselves, but there's a part of you that's kind of dying inside because you're not able to give your love to your child in the way that you like to give love. And so it starts to make you feel some kind of way, which is why you'll notice there are a lot of women out there who that child was the vessel of giving and receiving love. And once the child becomes too independent, where now she doesn't get that privilege, that experience anymore, she ends up wanting another child. Because now she needs to replace that vessel. She needs to replace the ability to give and receive love so freely, because this new child has choked it out, has restricted it. And again, it's not to demonize the child, the same way it's not to demonize the woman who is too independent, but it is to say that it hinders the ability for a relationship to flourish. Now, here's the thing. When we're talking about kids, there's a level of understanding that we have to allow them to grow up and be on their own, right? But in a relationship, we're getting together partially to do for each other, to be there for each other, to love on each other. So when it gets killed within a romantic relationship, well, you're essentially taking the romance out. You see what I'm saying? Like you're again hindering that his ability to be able to love you. And in return, even receive your love, because if he can't pour into you in that way, then trust and believe that his ability to pull out of you or receive from you is also hindered. All right? Because what creates more bonding than two people who can do for each other? If two people are just living together, doing for themselves, it's like they're roommates. They're not really pouring into each other. So therefore, there is no real romantic relationship occurring there. So the issue for the man who is genuine is, how can I have a loving relationship with this woman? Not to mention, here's what's hitting my spirit. I actually wasn't going to mention this, but hell, you know what it is when it hits my spirit. So the other issue becomes, she will not embrace my leadership. So again, some of you right now might be like, why the hell he needs to lead me? All right, he can lead himself, or we can lead together. Listen, this is another one of those topics, I always say it, that needs its own separate video, and I'm going to do that to really break it down. So forgive me in advance if I don't give enough of an analysis for you to truly understand and embrace why him being able to lead is actually good for the both of you. Okay? And again, we're talking about a man who's genuine about you. But just to give a quick overview, the man is wired in that way to, again, want to provide and protect. He wants to be able to show you he got you. He can handle this. And he wants you to trust him. And the reality is that if he is a man who has accomplished things on his own, has that foundation, right? Then to him it's like, I through my own independence, have shown the ability to live life and be productive and make things happen. So why can't you trust me? Why can't you give me that respect and that honor? The reality is that your struggle in that moment, if he does have a legit resume of showing quality leadership or the ability to make decisions, it stems from your distrust of men. All right? Going back to what I said, one of the sources of a lot of women's independence is a distrust of men, a fear of being vulnerable to a man. And let's be real. Accepting his leadership requires vulnerability. And so this is where now you will have a lot of resistance. And the man who loves you, who is genuine, who is capable of leading in love, I repeat, leading in love, not dictatorship, in love, he's going to have a hard time dealing with that constant resistance and that constant independence. And that's the thing, not to any fault of your own, but when we become so accustomed to our independence, man or woman, it becomes very difficult to accept other people doing certain things, all right? And one of the reasons is, I'm going to give you a business example, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am guilty, all right? And I'm working on it. But so building up this business, in the beginning, I did it myself. I did everything, video editing, photo editing, you name it, I did it. Social media, the books, all of it myself, right? And after a while of doing certain things, you come to your perfected style. All right, or the style that you like, that you feel is the best way to do things, so on and so forth. But the reality is that in any aspect of life, relationship or business, to elevate to the next level, you got to accept working with people. You got to accept a level of delegation or allowing others to fill a role that alleviates you of certain burdens and frees you to tap more into your actual gifts. Because doing everything is no one's gift, all right? No, we are not, jack of all trades, master of none, all right? That's not the goal. The goal has to be the master of certain things. Yes, it's good to have some basic fundamental skills in various areas of life, but we want to be really good at certain things. And to do that, we've got to be able to take our hands off of certain things and focus on this. But to get back to the point, so me in business, one of the problems becomes, all right, let me let this person do social media, but now they don't post the way I post. Now I get frustrated. Now I'm going to do it myself. You see? And now I'm back in this cycle of independently working when I have people around me who are willing to work for me or work with me. All right? So let's use an example in a relationship. Here's one of the big reasons why men don't end up consistently doing their half of the chores, okay? And let's use cleaning, for example. Because once that woman has established a way that she likes things to be cleaned, and she has her way that it's the right way in her mind. There's no other way. His way is lazy. It has spots. It just doesn't do the job the way that she wants. So she tries to delegate, okay, well, you do this on these days. I'm going to do this on these days, right? And then when you see his work, you're like, oh my gosh, this man is, and you get frustrated. So now you say, I'll just do it my damn self. You see what I'm saying? Now you find yourself doing all these chores and doing all these things again, or at least carrying a heavy burden. Why? Because you cannot accept the level of quality that you perceive to be beneath your level. And though, listen, it might be right. He may not clean the way you clean. He may not do things the way you do things. But there comes a point where we have to ask ourselves, is it worth us making a big deal of it and putting our hands on it? And now overburdening us with that task. Again, this applies to business. I had to get to a point where I was like, okay, even if someone else posting for me means 10% less likes, is it worth me taking that job back and now not allowing me to do the things that I'm gifted at doing, like speaking, like writing books, things of that nature? No, it's not. I'm actually hurting the ability for the business to grow by keeping my hands on more things they need to be on. This is what happens in relationships as well. Your ability to grow with this individual due to the struggle of coming out of that independence doesn't allow the relationship to grow the way that it needs to grow. And so there is a point where you have to say, you know what, even though it's not the best or the way that I do it, let me just roll with it. Unless it's like something completely detrimental, then that's different. But other than that, we have to accept that. So getting back to the main point, it's issues like that, and again, the struggle to accept leadership and all these different things that cause men to be resistant or not like when a woman is viewed, or they view a woman as too independent. So the next point I need to make is that, and I remember I mentioned earlier, I've never personally said to a woman, oh, you're too independent. I don't know why I never use that word, because I guess, again, I don't like defining women by independence, though there are women who are walking in that energy, so to speak. But what I have said, and what I think a lot of men are conveying when they say you're too independent, is you're too masculine, all right? And again, when a man is viewing you as too masculine, you have to understand that the being too independent, the reason why that's viewed as too masculine is because, again, the feminine is more free-flowing. And you could argue that the masculine is more rigid, okay? And that independent nature, it creates a rigidness, all right? It doesn't create a softness, all right? It's very difficult to be so independent and be able to successfully, consistently walk in your femininity. All right, they kind of conflict with each other. And so in your independence, because we have to understand, remember, what is the source of it? If your source is distrust for men, if your source is fear of being vulnerable, if your source is you've been pushed into this position, and if you've been pushed in this position, that means you don't truly like it at the core. Therefore, there may be a level of negative energy and resentment that exists within you because you have had to do everything yourself for so damn long. And so now that comes off as hardened energy. That hardened energy, or that hardened spirit, projects masculine energy, all right? So even though, because I know what some of you are saying or thinking, in a relationship, you're extremely capable of being feminine, all right? Or if you feel like you can trust a guy, you feel like you can be feminine. He just needs to show up the right way. The unfortunate, and that may be true to a certain extent, because I would argue that if you have not addressed the underlying source of your independence, if it comes from one of the more negative sources, then your ability to stay consistently in the feminine and really embrace it is going to be very difficult. Because again, there's going to be too much of a fear of staying that vulnerable with a guy. All right. And trusting any man, boyfriend, whoever. Like I even say myself, trust no man 100%. I only trust God 100%. You know what I'm saying? And I give people my trust based off of, does God want me to deal with you or not? But I understand that everyone's capable of making mistakes. Everyone's capable of doing something shady. That's just human nature. That's just life. Right circumstances, right buttons pushed, anyone is capable of doing something foul. So it's not that I expect a woman to give this 100% trust to a man, which is why I'm so big on spiritually praying about it, talking to God, making sure you're in the right place to begin with. But again, when you struggle with that, even just from a foundational standpoint, you're going to give off that hardened masculine energy. And that is going to push away the man who wants to love you and pour into you. Now, let me say this and make something very clear. The men who typically do not care whatsoever about you being very independent, right, are typically men who don't have much going on for themselves. Are typically men who are looking at you as a burden lifter rather than a woman that I want to pour into, all right? He's looking at it as, okay, she can take care of herself, so now I am relieved of certain responsibilities. So absolutely, be independent. Yay, go ahead, right? Like, he's cheering it on because that alleviates him. But I have not seen a man who is in love with a woman who does not want to pour into her. And therefore, it's not that that man does not, again, value the independence, is that he wants to see a balance, all right? Here's the thing. This video is not to tell you to simply stop being independent or stop your capability, because again, developing those skills, the ability to do for yourself when necessary is great. But it's about finding that balance that allows you to be interdependent in a relationship. Interdependent when you have people who do want to do for you, okay? Allowing people to take the burden off of you who are trying to pour into you. That's all. It's finding that balance. And I know that can be very difficult because, again, you've spent so many years being independent. And you may have either convinced yourself or been convinced by other people that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. But it is a detriment to a healthy relationship. It does choke the life out of it. And again, to be fair, independence on either, overly independent on either side can kill the relationship. So I once had an article I wrote, like, I don't know, it was like 8-10 years ago, and it was about the men being too independent and what effect that has on the relationship. Picture the man who doesn't talk to you about the things that he's trying to do, the moves he wants to make, the dreams he's having. He just does things on his own. You know, the guy who thinks he can just be out and about in the streets. He doesn't even let you know what's going on with him. Like, he just lives like he's a single man. That would piss you off. That would cause problems. You wouldn't be like, oh yes, be independent, keep doing what you do. No, because now you are in a relationship. I'm talking about the guy. He's in a relationship now. Once we enter into a relationship, we have to work together. We have to be a team. So interdependence is the goal within the relationship, and allowing independence to be the secondary role that we play, so to speak. So it's like, all right, let's figure out how we can do for each other, pour into each other. But yes, if there's a moment where he's sick and he can't do certain things right now, this is where your independence can kick in. And you're like, okay, well, I don't have to burden him because I know how to handle stuff. Same thing with him. It's like, listen, I hate cooking, all right? Hate it. You're going to pay me to cook. But I have enough skill that if I'm in a marriage, in a relationship, and my girl gets sick, I can still cook. But worst case scenario, I can still order too. So I got ways to make the food happen one way or another that doesn't put the burden on her. So yes, there are going to be moments where the independence needs to kick in, but we've got to keep interdependence at the forefront. So focus on, how can I be better balanced? And I'm going to tell you how you can be better balanced. So the key to achieving that balance and getting to a great place where you can be both interdependent woman and independent, capable of independent woman, is one, acknowledging it as the issue it is, all right? And I say that because, again, if you keep saying there's nothing wrong with it, oh, he should just respect it, he should just, then you're not gonna learn how to balance the whole thing. If you don't acknowledge the issue for what it is, then you will see no reason to resolve it. You will see no reason to do anything about it. So we have to first acknowledge, again, it's not to beat yourself up, it's not to demonize it, but it's to understand this is not the most beneficial approach if the goal is a healthy, long, happy relationship. The second step is healing. Because as I mentioned earlier, the source of your independence says a lot about the energy that you are projecting. And it says a lot about your struggle to come out of it. And so to break through that bondage, so to speak, you've got to address it at the root. If it was a conditioning from childhood, parents, father, whoever, we got to work through that. If it was what you saw your mother go through, we got to work through that. If it is your fear of being vulnerable to a man, we got to work through that. And we got to work through all the hurt that you've experienced so that you can walk more confidently in your vulnerability, in your feminine energy, and you will experience so much more peace and happiness. Listen, because ain't nothing better than knowing that you're in a relationship that you can count on somebody. But you got to create that environment too. It's not just them having to pull teeth to show you. You've got to come in as a willing partner to allow that stage to be set, so to speak. So to help you with the healing, be sure to get your copy of Love After Heartbreak, best-selling book. It is helping so many people, it's because it's a book for men and women, helping so many people heal. Get your copy, click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to loveafterheartbreak.com. And now the third step to creating that balance is practice, all right? And practice is simply, I'm not telling you to go out there asking men to do for you, asking friends and family to do for you. Though I do think there is a level of, scratch that. Yes, I do. I do want you to some degree, when you are burdened, when it really is going to stress you out, asking people who are around you who are supposed to be loving people if they can do this for you, they can help you out with this. You got to be willing to ask for help sometimes. A lot of people suffer in silence simply because they won't ask. Now, granted, if you tell me I've asked these people around me before and they always say no, okay, fine. If you're really around those people who have shown you over and over again they cannot be counted on, then to me, I'm going to make an argument that you don't need to be dealing with those people. But that's one thing. But if you haven't even really put it to, I don't want to say the test, but put it into practice, I do want you to consider doing that sometimes. But more importantly than that, let people do for you when they offer, all right? Someone wants to help you with your bags. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good example right now. But so if you're in a relationship, specifically with that, if you're dating a guy and he wants to help you with your let the man help carry your groceries. Let the man open your door. Let the man do things. If he offers to help you with something, let him. Practice being comfortable with that. Practice learning how, we always tell people learn how to say no. Learn how to say yes too. Like ain't nothing wrong with a yes sometimes. It can be great when you're dealing with the right people or you're in a relationship, or again, even if it's friends and family, let them help when it can really take a burden off of you and give you an opportunity to breathe. Now, I got one more thing I want to mention about this whole he tells you or he says you're too independent. I want to help you with how you respond in that moment, okay? I laugh and smile because I'm thinking of the women who have snapped at the man when he said you're too independent. What you mean I'm too independent? Like, listen, calm down. I want you to, when he says that, one, do not come out of character. When I say come out of character, because right now your current character might be to snap back right away. We got to learn to change that. We got to learn how to respond calmly. We got to learn how to discuss it, all right, rather than immediately be offended by it. Because there's a reason why he's viewing it, and let's not assume he's just the weak guy. Let's not assume he's just trying to belittle you or devalue you in any kind of way or just has some ill intention behind it. No, maybe that's what he's really seeing. And so when he says, hey, you're too independent, one, if you are watching this video and you can acknowledge that you have been extremely independent, and then let's say you meet a guy tomorrow and he tells you that, be able to say, you know what? I have been, but I'm working on it. And I recognize I want to do better in a relationship. Now, some of y'all may have just thrown up in your mouth having to say that. But listen, man, listen, trust me. You got to get to a point where this does not impact you in a negative way when someone says something to you. And listen, this is not just because you're a woman. I would be giving this same advice to a man that if a woman says, well, you're this, to not just snap at her, to be like, to actually dig deeper, to either acknowledge it for what it is and say, hey, I see this, or I know this is what the case is, and I'm working on this to be better because I know that this is something that needs to be improved upon. Or if you're not at that stage yet, just asking, what makes you say that? Why do you feel I'm too independent? How do you feel that's going to be an issue? You know what I'm saying? Have a discussion about it. Because what ends up happening in a lot of situations is your response to it, when it's a negative, when it's a snapback, when it's a I'm offended, you actually start to validate their negative perception. Whether it's the perception of independence or the perception, more importantly, or more specifically, of too masculine. All right? You actually end up feeding into that rather than dispelling it. So to me, let's dispel when someone hits us with that, or at least let's acknowledge it and say, yeah, you know what? I'm working on it. I'm trying to be better. And let me tell you, if a man is genuine or views you as potential, like, man, this could have been it, but I don't know about this independence thing, and then he says that to you, and then you say, yeah, you know what? I realize that, and I'm working on it. I'm trying to be better with it. He's going to be less likely to walk away from this situation. Because that willingness to take accountability and to say that I'm working towards better, that's so honorable. Like, think about if you said to a man, yo, you seem too passive, or you seem too, you're lacking ambition. And rather than him being offended and throwing excuses, he says, you know what, you're right. I've been like that for a long time, but I recognize the issue now and I'm working towards better. That would at least give you reason to be like, well, wait, well, maybe there's something that can happen here, because he's actually acknowledging the issue and trying to move in a better direction. So be open to that. And again, understand, I'm not trying to stop you from being independent. I just want to help you find the proper balance so that you can have better peace in your life in general, but also have a more successful, happier, fulfilling relationship. Thank you for watching this video. Now check out this one over here, where I'm going to tell you the things he says when he really loves you. A wise man doesn't love a million girls. He loves one girl in a million ways. And so essentially, when a man is truly in love with you, the words that he speaks will sound like music to your ears.